ZanziStar. ZanziStar is also known as the solar system, from a never other place and a never other time. Mothered by the moon and fathered by the sun, she is the ruler of the elements and seasons one by one. Black girl magic is what her solar powers spews, from afro puffs that reach the sky like magical floating clouds. Her mighty clouds boom beats like thunder speaking onto the third eye of ghetto girls the world over. The puffs work like smart clouds with magnetic levitation technology, solving the problems of ghetto kids with hip-hop beat osmology. Zanzi is the only child of the sun and Mother Moon. She was always taught to share. Finding herself alone, allowed her baby sister is all she wished for. From cyberspace she heard the beats from project kids on earth and land. She gave them light when up past night, needing somewhere to join the band. Led by a super chick called Pecan Tan. Zanzi could tell right off the bat that Pecan Tan was a natural moon child, being raised by a native moon mother who kept the community healthy and wise. ZanziStar learned all she needed to know growing up by watching black kids from on high. She found a swagger that made her very fly. She wanted them all to realize how they possessed the same power she did, with mind elevation and education that must be cultivated with love and time. Love, light, and time is where her gifts align. The stars in the sky, the playground, she manipulates the project kids' worlds with, using astrological signs and numerology to move the southern tips of every place on earth. Oppression makes its home on southern soil most often, and Zanzi's solar power keeps the land charged and lit. One day, as she watched Pecan Tan and play, a community calamity took serenity away. She could feel a disturbance in her hair. In a hurry, told Tan to beware. Storming near was the hood's bully Bonehead, whose aura brought fear. With a grisly glimmering grin of gold fronts, he barked at Tan, "Where you been? I ain't seen you in months." The cackling cricket clapped Tan across the shoulder and laughed from his barrel belly as hard as a boulder. Bonehead was known around as the rudest, crudest gangster in town, and with him now was his posse of clowns, Pee-wee, Lucci, and Buster Brown. The solar sister watched the tension and resisted her urge for divine intervention to see if Tan learned the lessons and paid attention. Bonehead bent down to Pecan Tan, his breath as rank as hell, as hot, and said, "Come along, Tan. These dudes from another hood is trying to take our spot. You tight with Zanzi, right? She help us out? With some of that black girl magic, we can bust some mouths." Pan simmered, steamed, and all but burst. And her granny being on her porch is the only reason she hadn't cursed. "What's wrong with you, Bonehead? Don't you know? Your crabs in a bucket attitude would never let you grow. You go picking fights with this hood and that, and you'll find yourself with a bullet through your head." The little girl took a breath, knowing she went off, and looked up at Bonehead with her tone and turned soft. "Bonehead, you walk around and act up like you got something to prove, but deep down you know not nobody is moved. Them boys you want to scrap with are just like you, and they're just as scared of life as you. Scared of being hungry, scared of being broke, scared of the police, and scared of the destruction of your body. But this is self-destruction, Bobby." "Who you calling Bobby? You right, Tan." Bobby Bonehead sighed, and the fire to fight in him had all but died. His shoulders slumped and he looked mighty shameful, for knowing how much damage he was doing was very painful. But Pecan Tan felt the rhythms of ZanziStar puffs beating a message to her heart. Reach out to him. Don't leave him all torn apart." Tan looked. She took the bully's hand, drawing a gasp from his crew, saving a life that day and turning the leaf anew. This was just one of Zanzi's lyrical miracles. Though indirect, they had the tendency to always be correct. Helping folks was a simple pleasure that ZanziStar had adored, almost as much as crafting rhymes which into all her heart was poured. She was a practicing griot, and all she did inspiration to ciphers all over the world the same way she did with good lessons. MCs all about the world had Zanzi to thank for blessing them with rhythm. They were devoted to her beats like they were her hymns. Many wondered just where Zanzi had acquired her fire, and the answer couldn't have been more obvious eons ago. Seeing down below that humankind had no flow, Zanzi would go up to her father, the sun, already knowing her goal. She knew her stingy father wouldn't give up his fire, but she begged and pleaded all she could. Her real weapons of persuasion was, of course, the bumping speakers in her afro clouds. Turned down low, she played a lullaby that worked her father to sleep. Then she'd creep all the way up to his mouth and plucked out one of his gold teeth. As much as she'd love to share, Zanzi was just as willing to take, if it meant she could share some more. As Zanzi grew, she only became more and more rebellious against her mother and father, becoming closer to humans than she ever did with her parents. This plagued the moon and sun to no end. They often took to locking Zanzi up in, feeling like she'd been too liberal with using her powers to help mankind. Once they locked her up so tight that she couldn't even see the glow of her parents that could reach any other creature in the solar system. For one, Zanzi was the one who needed saving. So she called out to her people of woolen hair across the diaspora, pleading with them to extend to her the kindness she taught so many of them to extend to each other. She let forth the loudest beat she could that was muffled by the dark matter walls of her prison. It appeared to be just enough, for when it reached Pecan Tan, she knew exactly what she needed to do. Clapping and stomping on the asphalt of her street, she mimicked Zanzi's beat and called out every other kid in the hood to join her. All over the world, black folks dropped what they were doing to rock the stars enough to rattle Zanzi's cage apart until all the screws popped out and she was able to soar free. From then on, the celestial bodies that birthed humanity's gift-giver hadn't heard the smallest beat from her. She liked to keep it that way. Forever a runaway and fugitive to the stars so that she could fully dedicate herself to all the life she adored on earth, from creatures in the deepest recesses of the ocean to the bugs on the backs of birds cutting across our beautiful world's blue sky. Zanzi found a comfortable home on planet Earth, living in the home of her very best pupil, Pecan Tan, and resumed her work from the shadows, using Tan as her primary instrument of change in the community. Never again did she care to live under the domineering radiance of her father, which was so overbearing and radical it often burned what it intended to save. Nor did she have to witness the passive dim glow of her mother, who watched too often the wounds in the community which would go without mending. She was able to acquire balance and knowing how to act as well as how not to. When the time had come and every lesson she could teach was absorbed effortlessly by Pecan Tan, she knew for certain that a hero to surpass her was standing before her. Taking a single nap from her hair, she took Tan's cheek and lured her to sleep before planting it among her roots. Once the moon had passed Tan over and the sun rose again, Tan felt herself brimming with the familiar power that she'd formerly just basked in. This power made each pore on her sun-kissed skin tingle, as if they were their own tiny little speakers embedded in her. She shed a tear in knowing her friend and mentor was gone, but managed a smile or two and whispered words that the amplification of her gift brought made audible to the entire world. Thank you. And as heartbroken as they were that their own baby girl had left them alone, the Mother Moon and Father Sun couldn't help but feel somewhat proud of all Zanzi had accomplished. The moon had shied away from intervening the way Zanzi did with teaching bullies the error of their ways, and the sun was absolutely through the roof at the theft of his tooth. For years he'd been licking at the spot where his tooth had been before he realized a new type of fire in the griots down on earth. Whatever had appeared as harmful to them at first had later become reason to be proud of their daughter's ferocious desire to do right by her people.